Ever wonder why some people always seem to end up doing what others want? They agree to things they don't want to agree to. They compromise when they shouldn't compromise. They find themselves living someone else's life while wondering how they got there. What if that person is you? And what if you don't even realize it? I am about to expose 7 signs that you are too easy to control. These aren't obvious signs. They're subtle patterns that manipulators recognize instantly, while you remain blind to them. And I am going to show you exactly how to fix each one before others exploit them further. Right now, someone in your life is benefiting from your controllability. A boss, a partner, a friend, a family member. They've learned your buttons, they know your triggers, they understand exactly how to get you to do what they want, and they use this knowledge constantly. Here is the brutal truth. If you don't know how you are being controlled, you can't stop it. The first step to freedom is recognizing the chains. Only then can you break them. Today, we're identifying your chains so you can finally break free. Machiavelli studied how rulers controlled populations. He documented every technique of manipulation and compliance. He understood that control depends on the controlled remaining unaware of how control works. Today, that changes for you. By the end of this video, you'll recognize exactly which signs apply to you. You'll understand how each one makes you controllable, and you'll have specific fixes to eliminate these vulnerabilities forever. Are you ready to stop being controlled? Drop this affirmation in the comments. I control myself. Sign number 1. You can't tolerate disapproval. Here is the first and most common sign that you are too easy to control. You can't handle people being upset with you. The moment someone shows disapproval, you scramble to fix it. This desperation is your biggest vulnerability. Manipulators recognize this instantly. They see how you monitor their reactions, how you adjust your behavior to maintain their approval, how uncomfortable you become when they seem displeased. This gives them total control without them having to ask for anything directly. Here is how they exploit it. They simply show disapproval when you don't do what they want. They don't have to threaten. They don't have to demand. They just have to look disappointed. And you'll change your behavior to restore their approval. You are training yourself like a dog. Machiavelli wrote, "Men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities that he who deceives will always find someone who will allow himself to be deceived." Your necessity for approval is the present necessity that makes you deceivable. Remove it, and you become uncontrollable. The fix is developing tolerance for disapproval. Start small. Let someone be mildly disappointed without rushing to fix it. Notice that you survive, that their disapproval doesn't actually harm you. Gradually increase your tolerance until disapproval becomes emotionally neutral. Here is the truth. You cannot be controlled through disapproval if disapproval doesn't affect you. The moment you are genuinely okay with others being upset, that manipulation tool stops working. They'll have to find something else. And there is less else when you are psychologically fortified. Robert Greene observed, "Do not commit to anyone." The deepest commitment people make is the commitment to others' approval. Break this commitment. Your approval of yourself must matter more than their approval of you. When it does, you become uncontrollable through this vector. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Disapproval doesn't control me. Here is a concrete exercise. This week, deliberately do something small that you know won't receive approval. Nothing harmful, just something you want that others won't applaud. Notice their disapproval. Notice you survive it. Notice the world continues. This experience builds immunity. The approval addiction often starts in childhood. You learned that approval meant safety. Disapproval meant danger. But you are not a child anymore. Disapproval from adults is just their opinion. It carries no actual threat. Updating this childhood programming changes everything. Ask yourself honestly, whose approval controls you most? A parent, a partner, a boss. Identify them. then systematically reduce their control by practicing being okay when they disapprove. Their power over you shrinks with each successful experience. Sign number 2. You explain yourself too much. Here is the second sign: you are too easy to control. You over-explain, you justify. You provide reasons for your decisions. You argue your case as if others have the right to judge it. This explanatory behavior is weakness on display. When you explain yourself, you are implicitly accepting that others have authority over your choices. You are treating them as judges who must approve your decisions. This frame puts them in power and you in supplication. Manipulators exploit this mercilessly. They question your decisions, not because they don't understand, because they know you'll explain. And once you are explaining, you are negotiating. And once you are negotiating, you are compromising. And once you are compromising, they're winning. Machiavelli understood that appearing to need permission diminishes power. The ruler who explains himself appears to serve his subjects rather than lead them. Your explanations create the same dynamic in your relationships. The fix is simple but hard. Stop explaining. Make decisions. Announce them if necessary. But don't justify them. When questioned, you can acknowledge the question without answering it. I've decided this. Period. No, because, no reason, just decision. Here is a phrase that changes everything. I don't need to explain my decisions. Practice saying it, mean it, use it. Watch how the dynamic shifts when you stop treating others as judges of your choices. Suddenly, you are the authority in your own life. Robert Greene stated, "Always say less than necessary." Explanations are unnecessary speech. They reveal your reasoning, which others can attack. They show your priorities, which others can exploit. They demonstrate your need for approval, which others can manipulate. Say less. Explain nothing. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I don't justify my choices. Here is the mindset shift. You are the authority on your own life. Authorities don't explain themselves to subordinates. They decide and act. When you explain, you are treating yourself as subordinate to whoever you are explaining to. Stop subordinating yourself. Practice this specific technique. When asked why you made a choice, respond with a question instead. Why do you ask? This puts the burden back on them while you maintain your position. You haven't refused to explain. You've simply not explained yet. Notice how powerful people handle challenges to their decisions. They rarely explain. They might restate the decision. They might discuss implementation. But they don't justify. They don't argue for their right to decide. They simply decide and move forward. Emulate this. Sign number 3. You fear confrontation. Here's the third sign: you are too easy to control. You avoid confrontation at almost any cost. You'd rather swallow disrespect than address it. You'd rather accept poor treatment than make things awkward. This avoidance is an open invitation to be controlled. Manipulators test for this immediately. They push slightly. They cross small boundaries. They watch whether you'll push back. When you don't, they know. They found someone who will accept whatever they dish out rather than risk confrontation. Here is the brutal math. Every confrontation you avoid makes the next necessary confrontation harder and more costly. Issues compound, resentment builds. The explosion that eventually comes is far worse than the small confrontations you avoided. Machiavelli wrote, "Never was anything great achieved without danger." Confrontation feels dangerous, but avoidance is more dangerous. The person who avoids all confrontation surrenders to whoever is willing to create one. The fix is practicing small confrontations. Start with low-stakes situations. Send back food that is wrong at a restaurant. Correct someone who gets your name wrong. Disagree with a minor opinion. Build the confrontation muscle through graduated exposure. Here is what you'll discover. Confrontation rarely goes as badly as you imagine. Most people respect boundaries when you actually enforce them. The confrontations you feared often resolve quickly when you finally have them. Your fear was worse than the reality. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Never esteem anything as of advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect." Avoiding confrontation to keep false peace costs your self-respect. The price is too high. Pay the smaller price of temporary discomfort instead. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I don't avoid necessary confrontation. Here is the reframe that changes everything. Confrontation isn't attack. It is communication. You are simply expressing disagreement or establishing limits. The other person's discomfort with your expression is their problem, not yours. You are not hurting them by having boundaries. Prepare scripts for common confrontations you avoid. What will you say when someone disrespects you? When someone crosses a boundary, when someone asks too much? Having the words ready makes confrontation easier when the moment arrives. Remember that people who create the need for confrontation are responsible for the confrontation. You are not creating conflict by addressing disrespect. They created conflict by disrespecting. You are simply responding to what they started. The guilt belongs with them, not you. Sign number 4. You say yes when you mean no. Here is the fourth sign you are too easy to control. You agree to things you don't want to agree to. You commit when you don't want to commit. Your mouth says yes while your mind screams no. This disconnect is exploited constantly. This happens because you are optimizing for their comfort over your truth. You don't want to disappoint them. You don't want to explain why not. You don't want the confrontation, so you say yes and deal with the consequences later. Manipulators love this. They know that your yes doesn't really mean yes. It means, I am too weak to say no. So they keep asking for more. Keep pushing boundaries. Keep extracting agreements because your no doesn't exist. Machiavelli observed that rulers who promised everything delivered nothing. Your yes that means no is a promise you can't keep. It damages your reputation while not even buying you approval. The worst of both worlds. The fix requires reconnecting your words to your truth. Before responding to any request, pause, check what you actually want. Then say that. Not what you think they want to hear, what you actually mean. This simple alignment changes everything. Here is a technique. Buy time before responding. Let me think about that. I'll get back to you. This space allows you to check your actual response rather than reflexively agreeing. Use the time to formulate your real answer. Your no is a complete sentence. Number, you don't owe explanation. You don't owe alternative. You don't owe apology. Just no. Practice it. Mean it. Watch how much more respect you get when your words match your meaning. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My no means no. Here is why false yes is so damaging. When you say yes but mean no, you create future problems. You'll either do the thing resentfully, do it poorly, or find an excuse to back out. All of these damage trust more than an honest no would have. Practice this phrase. That doesn't work for me. It is a no without the bluntness of no. It communicates the same thing but feels softer. Use it while you are building the strength for direct. No, eventually, you won't need the softening. Notice the people in your life who get the most false yes from you. These are the relationships where you most need to practice authentic response. They've been trained to expect compliance. Retraining them requires consistent, honest no over time. Sign number 5. You are predictable. Here is the fifth sign you are too easy to control. People know exactly what you'll do in any situation. Your reactions are so consistent that others can plan around them. This predictability makes controlling you effortless. When you are predictable, manipulators don't have to work hard. They know pushing this button gets this reaction. They know this phrase triggers this emotion. They know this situation produces this behavior. You are a machine with known inputs and outputs. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." When you are predictable, everyone knows what you are. There is no mystery, no uncertainty, no hesitation about how to handle you. You are completely mapped. The powerful are strategically unpredictable, not random strategic. They vary their responses, sometimes generous, sometimes ruthless, sometimes forgiving, sometimes retributive. This variance keeps others respectful because they can't calculate the optimal way to treat you. The fix is introducing deliberate variance in your responses. Don't always react the same way. Sometimes let things slide that you'd normally address. Sometimes address things you'd normally let slide. Keep them guessing about which version they'll encounter. Here is the principle. Predictable is controllable. Unpredictable is respected. You don't have to be chaotic, just varied enough that others can't calculate exactly how to handle you. That uncertainty protects you. Robert Greene advised, keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. Terror is strong, but the principle is sound. When others don't know how you'll react, they treat you more carefully. They can't optimize against you because they can't predict you. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I am strategically unpredictable. Sign number 6. You let guilt drive decisions. Here is the sixth sign you are too easy to control. You make decisions based on guilt rather than judgment. When someone makes you feel guilty, you do what they want to relieve the guilt. This emotional pattern is a master key to controlling you. Guilt is the manipulator's favorite tool. It requires no force, no threat, no consequence, just making you feel bad about yourself. Once you feel bad, you'll do almost anything to feel better, including whatever they want. Here is how it works. They frame their desire as your obligation. They present their want as your duty. When you don't comply, you feel guilty for failing this false duty. To relieve the guilt, you comply. The manipulation is complete. Machiavelli observed that effective rulers used others' conscience against them. Guilt is weaponized conscience. When you are susceptible, your own moral feelings become tools for your manipulation. The fix is separating guilt from obligation. Ask yourself, is this actually my responsibility? Did I actually do wrong? Or am I just feeling guilty because someone wants me to? Manufactured guilt feels like real guilt, but it isn't. Learned to tell the difference. Here is a principle. Guilt is appropriate when you've actually violated your own standards. It is manipulation when someone else installs guilt to violate your standards for their benefit. The first is valid. The second is attack. When you feel guilty, examine it. Who benefits from this guilt? You or them? If they benefit and you lose, the guilt is probably manufactured. Recognize it, reject it. Make your decision based on judgment, not induced emotion. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I don't let guilt control me. Here is a technique for processing guilt. When guilt arises, ask 3 questions. Did I actually violate my own values or someone else's values that I don't share? Who benefits if I act on this guilt? Answering these questions often dissolves manufactured guilt while respecting legitimate guilt. Common guilt induction phrases include, after all I've done for you and I thought you cared about me, and if you really loved me, you would. Learn to recognize these as manipulation, not truth. They're designed to install guilt to control you, nothing more. Legitimate guilt serves you. It signals when you violated your own standards. This guilt should be heeded, but manufactured guilt serves others. It signals that they want you to violate your standards for their benefit. This guilt should be ignored. Sign number 7. You lack clear boundaries. Here is the final sign you are too easy to control. You don't have clear boundaries. Or you have them but don't enforce them. Without boundaries that mean something, you are in open territory that anyone can occupy. Boundaries are the rules that define how others can treat you. Without them, others make the rules, and the rules they make serve them, not you. You become subject to whatever treatment they decide to give. Manipulators test boundaries immediately. They push slightly past what seems acceptable. If you don't respond, they found a weakness. They push further. Still no response. Further still, your lack of enforced boundaries is an invitation to exploitation, Machiavelli wrote. The injury, therefore, that we do to a man must be such that we need not fear his vengeance. When you have no boundaries, there is no injury anyone fears giving you. You've signaled that you won't respond, so they don't fear, so they exploit. The fix requires both establishing and enforcing boundaries. First, decide what treatment you will and won't accept. Write it down. Be specific. Then, when boundaries are violated, enforce consequences immediately, not eventually, immediately. Here is what most people miss. Unenforced boundaries are worse than no boundaries. They teach that you can be violated without consequence. Announced limits with no defense invite the very violations they prohibit. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Stop arguing about your boundaries. Enforce them once, consistently. Watch how quickly people learn to respect what you actually defend. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My boundaries are enforced. Here is a practical exercise. Write down your top 5 boundaries. What treatment do you absolutely not accept? Then write down the consequence for each. What happens when this boundary is violated? Now you have a clear enforcement framework. Common boundaries include how you are spoken to, what you are asked to do, how your time is treated, what access others have to you, and what behavior you tolerate in your presence. Review each category. Where are your limits? Where are they violated? The hardest boundaries to enforce are with the people closest to you. They've had the most time to learn they can violate. They'll resist most strongly when you start enforcing. But these are often the most important boundaries to establish. Don't let closeness excuse violation. Here is what happens when you fix all 7 signs. When you tolerate disapproval. When you stop explaining. When you embrace confrontation. When your no means no. When you become unpredictable. When guilt stops driving you. When your boundaries are enforced. You become uncontrollable. First, manipulators leave you alone. You are too much work. They seek easier targets. The same people who exploited your controllability find others to exploit when you become fortified. Second, your relationships improve dramatically. The relationships that survive your transformation are real. They were based on genuine connection, not exploitation of your weaknesses. What remains is higher quality. Third, self-respect returns. When you are not being controlled, when you are not betraying yourself to please others, when you are living according to your own choices, self-respect naturally emerges. Fourth, you have energy you never had before. The exhaustion of being controlled, of managing others' emotions, of suppressing your own truth disappears. That energy becomes available for living your actual life. Fifth, you become someone others respect. Ironically, the traits that made you controllable made you contemptible to controllers. When you become uncontrollable, even former manipulators often develop respect for you. Sixth, your decision-making improves. Without guilt, approval needs, and confrontation avoidance distorting your choices, you start making decisions based on actual judgment. The quality of your life improves because the quality of your decisions improves. Seventh, you model freedom for others. When people see you living uncontrolled, some realize they can too. Your freedom becomes permission for their freedom. You contribute to a world where fewer people are controlled. The transformation isn't instant. These patterns developed over years. They'll take time to change. But each small victory builds momentum. Each refusal to be controlled strengthens the refusal muscle. Progress compounds. If you've made it this far, you've diagnosed your vulnerabilities. Most people can't do this. Most people can't look honestly at how they're controlled. But you have that awareness is the first step to freedom. Most controllable people will stay controllable forever. They'll continue being manipulated by those who recognize their patterns. They'll live lives determined by others' agendas, but not you, not anymore. If this video exposed how you've been controlled, smash that like button. If you know someone being controlled and they need this message, share it with them. And if you want more content that liberates you from manipulation, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Now drop this final affirmation in the comments. I am uncontrollable. Remember, in a world full of controllers seeking the controllable, the one who cannot be controlled lives free. Be that person, fix these 7 signs, become uncontrollable, and watch how everything changes when you finally stop letting others determine your life. Because you were never meant to be controlled. You were meant to be free. The signs we discussed are learned vulnerabilities, not inherent weaknesses. You can unlearn them, you can fix them, you can become who you were always supposed to be. Someone who controls themselves and cannot be controlled by anyone else. Start today. Your freedom is waiting. Pick one sign that resonated most. Start there, fix that one first, then move to the next. Within months, you'll be unrecognizable to the people who used to control you. And that version of you, the free one, is the real one. Go meet them.